Hi, it's Eva again. I wake up ambitious people like you and dare them to be great. And today we're talking to human performance and leadership coach Irais Browaeys.
That's right.
And just like Iraïs, expect this episode to be inspirational and high energy. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Eva. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this conversation as well.
Me too.
So what are we going to talk about today? Well, it's three main things. So first of all, we're going to talk about well-being of high performers in the broadest sense. So think physical, mentally, emotionally. And we're going to talk about what it is, but also what happens if these are not managed well. Well, what happens? We can already tell you burnout. There's a lot of misconceptions about burnout. So Iraïs is also going to talk to us about what is burnout actually and how can you spot whether you are going towards that burnout or not. Very important to notice for yourself. And then finally, the moment that most people are always waiting for, it's like the concrete tips, like what can you start doing today to really manage your well-being well, to manage your energy in a sustainable way so that you can be great and really use that full potential on a day-to-day basis. Are you ready for it?
Exciting. The way that you explain it already gives me a lot of energy, so I'm ready.
All
Definitely.
right, good. Well, the bar is high. So.
Yeah, always. The bar is always very high, but I'm used to that.
That's good. So the first question we always kick off this episode with is, what's the change you want to create in this world? Like, what's the change?
Yeah, and I've listened to the previous podcast, so I knew that this question was coming indeed. It's a very big question. I think the world is very big. I try to narrow it down to the corporate world. There is a change that I want to make, and if you look at the corporate world, there are so many challenges. I mean, everybody's exhausted. We live in a hybrid working world. Teams don't see each other. The trust, therefore, is hard to manage.
Yeah.
People's mindset are definitely getting a little bit damaged somehow. So it's just tough. And I think my role in what I want to create is I want to build winning cultures.
Okay.
But when people think about winning cultures, you instantly think about many companies that are successful. That are having numbers, growing share, making profitable growth, but it's not that kind of winning that I mean.
Okay.
It's because if you then go into these companies, and that's what often happens, and talent or HR, they throw in an engagement survey, or coaches come in and they start measuring things, is that you see that oftentimes teams are exhausted, right? And they achieve the results, but what does it cost them in terms of talent retention, energy management? Everybody's just tired. And so when you look in the sports world, but also in the business world, at the true winning teams and the dream teams and the winning cultures, I think they have healthy habits in place into how do you manage your own energy? Everybody has its own accountability there.
Yeah.
How good do they take care of each other? How well do they give each other feedback? Do they embrace feedback? And so that is for me the difference. When I talk about I want to build winning cultures, is to make that, I think the level of sustainability there is different, and it's just a differentiating factor. And so that's what I want to do, and that's what I'm doing.
All right. Yeah, because indeed, winning cultures, when you talk about what is the perception around it, I think also a lot of people think it's like work hard.
Exactly.
And the harder I work, the more hours I put into it, the more results there will be, the more performance there will be. But that's then not how you see it.
No, definitely it's not. And oftentimes it's about looking at not working harder and pushing harder and the grind set that so many people take great pride in. I'm constantly hustling and bustling. No, it's not that. You have the saying, work hard, work smarter.
Yeah.
We have to work smarter. I think it's more about also looking to recover smarter.
Yeah.
Why is nobody talking about that, right?
No.
And so that is a little bit the change that I definitely want to make. Yeah.
Okay. And how do you do that then in these corporate cultures to create these winning cultures?
Well, I always start at looking at the three magical words. It's very simple. You as a coach, I as a coach, and I think leaders in general should be able to look at that as well, is to constantly be detecting the unnecessary energy leaks. Leakages, the costs. And those can be hidden on different levels in the organization. So in the beginning, it's always a little bit of a search. Where is the organization leaking? And that can be actually on a personal level. So then how do I do that? I give big keynotes on how to become more resilient, how to manage your energy a little bit better, how to be more focused, all these things on what can I do myself as an individual contributor, as a leader. But they can also be hidden on a team level, right? You can have a great team with great energy, but then when they come to the working floor, the team is not functioning right. There's maybe negativity, toxicity, but they also can be hidden on a more of a, global cultural level of an organization, which then might be more about the mindset. Where
the mindset of the organization itself.
Yeah, meaning the combination of the mindsets of everybody in the organization. Yeah. Do we have silo mindsets? How can we break the silos? Is there a kind of a false belief that if we are working in our silos and every category by itself, that we are more performant? What do we miss out on? Are we in a kind of a passive state of mind where we're not doing anything and we're not thinking proactively? So detecting the mindsets of people, I think, is about, we have values on the website. We have, many companies have different names for it, values, beliefs, constellations. But do we also practice them in our real behaviors? And that for me has to do with the mindset.
Interesting.
That's the reflection that as a mental coach I'm often making.
And so then do you work both bottom up as top down, or because you work on the 3 levels, it's completely different types of work, I can imagine?
It depends. I often work based on where the biggest leak is. So, and where the biggest impact can be made. So I work with the boards, I work with the executive teams, but I also work with all individual contributors or with the layers of leaders that need to trickle down certain behaviors and certain values to them, the bottom. I don't like to call it like that, but to the whole support team around them. So it depends on where the leak is highest and where the cost of energy is really, really high. That's where I usually start.
Wow, interesting. I think we could make an entire episode about each layer, but today we're going to dive into more the personal layer of the personal well-being. But before we dive into it, were you always doing this type of work? Like, how did you start doing this?
Not at all. I think as anybody, or I don't know many people that at 17 years old, you know what to do in your life. And with me, that was exactly the same thing. I mean, I studied language and literature and masters that I hated from the start, but I just had my group of friends that I loved to be with. And then I graduated. And then I kicked off my career in one of my biggest passions, which is sports. I always was a big fan of sports, cycling, running, swimming. So that got me into triathlon as a triathlete. And I started building my career in the sports world. We were building a sports nutrition brand, Ethics. Maybe some Belgium will know it. It's the bars, the gels, the protein shakes, all of that. And it was a very interesting time for me because at a certain moment you get to a certain reach or you want to build some brand visibility. And so we got into contact with a couple of the big sports teams and also top athletes. Eliud Kipchoge, a double golden medalist winner, some triathlon teams, but also the Ethics Quickstep team was born then. Team of Patrick Lefevre, one of the biggest known teams in terms of team collaboration, unity as a team. And there, me and my colleague, Julie, we had the privilege of being very close to them, to that team. And there, I think for me, there was a spark that went off in my head, because if you look at top athletes, they have huge amounts of pressure on them. The way that they have to and be performant, but also take into account all the other obligations that they have, media, sponsorships, marketing. It's a different breed, a top athlete. But also if you look at the level of personalities of a team, the big personalities, it was back in the days of Tom Bonen, Marcel Kittel, Julien Lafilippe was just joining as a younkie. You had Stibar, Niki Terpstra, Mark Cavendish, the big egos, I would say. Throw them in one team, and how do you make a team out of them? So all the levels that we just talked about, instantly you can apply that on the corporate world. And I think in that moment I decided to go back to the business world or to start building my career, because that was not a step that went super easily. But I decided I want to serve the business world with a different kind of purpose, which is nothing to do with KPIs, but in how you reach them. And so
the process towards it.
Exactly. And so
interesting.
Ever since I've been privileged to to work in the kitchen of big companies, the Nikes, the Salesforces, the Googles, the Amazons, the PepsiCos, the Danones. And because that is where the dirty work happens, right?
Indeed.
But also the nice work.
And where you also have a really big impact on a lot of different people, because I can imagine in the sports world, it's more it's fewer people than if you go in the corporate world,
Yeah.
and you can really have these principles live and really influence everyone in the organization. It's thousands of people instead of hundreds of people. So your scope is also bigger.
It depends on how you look at it.
Okay.
I think as an individual coach working a lot individually, you can make a big impact on smaller numbers of people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, your work is more individually, and that is big impact on people's lives.
Yeah.
I see my work more as I'm moving a lot of people and a lot of cultures, but I'm hoping that the culture becomes a thing that is inherited from generation to generation. And that is the way how over a longer period of time you might make another kind of impact.
Yeah. So it's like a longer sustainable trail via your inspiration, via your work.
Yeah.
And you want it to trickle down.
It has to be contagious.
It has to be
right?
contagious.
If you change the life of one leader or one person, it becomes contagious.
Yeah.
If I change a team into giving feedback a lot better and they get a new team, it's contagious.
It's contagious.
And
that's what you're aiming for. All right.
Exactly.
Good. Love it. So today we're going to talk about then that well-being in the broadest sense. So I know that there's different aspects to well-being in a broadest sense. Like, can you tell us a little bit more about what are the different components of well-being and maybe a sneak peek into the challenges of these components?
I think that the word has many different synonyms, right? Well-being, vitality. There was times years ago it was not such a big thing, but I think nowadays, regardless of the level that you have in the organization, whether you're the president, the CEO, an executive com member, or an expert, like Isabeau last week called it the professional versus the manager. I loved that distinguishment, Isabeau, so well done. Is that regardless where you are at, the challenges are the same or similar.
Yeah.
You can have, I think one of the biggest buckets, if you will, is the physical one.
Yeah. Okay.
So many measurements that I do where people are struggling to sleep well, to disconnect properly, to take basically care of themselves. Mm-hmm. So meaning that they're physically exhausted.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, so many people.
You're a mother. I don't need to tell you. It's tough.
It's tough.
I mean, it's tough. But what can you do? What small things can you pay attention then to get a little bit of a boost there and feel a little bit more vital?
Mm-hmm.
I think a second one is definitely the mental health. There's a reason why the song, I don't know if you know that, the song Anxiety on TikTok, on Instagram.
I know.
It's like, ooh, is my anxiety a but it's like a big thing on all reels right now that you see on socials. And it's these kind of small things that point to me that the world many people have mental anxiety.
Yeah.
And that's a huge thing. But there's an antidote, which is creating a little bit more mental strength, mental resilience, if you will.
Yeah.
Which then, but there's a lot of anxiety. Mental health is really on the upwards direction. So that is a huge one. I think a third bucket then is not the physical. How fit am I? How vital? Not the mental. Am I worrying too much? Am I thinking constructively? But is the emotional one.
Yes.
And emotional is so often overlooked in the corporate world where we're high performant, focusing on the output. But how do we feel?
Mm-hmm.
And I do measure that a lot as well.
Okay, curious to understand how you measure it. I think we'll get to that later on. But okay, so really the physical, the mental, and the emotional. These are the three big buckets you work on when it comes to well-being.
Yeah, definitely, because they all interconnect with each other.
Yes.
I mean, if you just had an emotional fight at home, even privately, you come to the working floor, you won't be as mental sharp.
No.
When you've had a bad night, you come to the working floor, it's going to be tough to focus.
Yes.
So it's important to see the holistic view and the interconnectivity between all of those different kinds of energy, if you will.
Yeah, okay. And so if we start at the physical layer, like what are the main challenges you see there? It's the most concrete layer, and I think everyone wants to boost their energy because they see being energetic is correlated to being successful. So I think that's also the most popular one, maybe.
And it's exactly the hustle that you mentioned, right? And at the start, like we're working harder. Yeah. It's this grind. If you don't work hard, if you don't answer the question, how are you with busy? My life is busy. I could hate that. Many leaders, how are you busy? Yeah, busy. It's like a status symbol.
Yeah, it's a status
I think
symbol.
we need to stop the glorification of being busy.
Yes.
Right? That's the first step.
Yes.
Encourage the power of people that slow down to then move faster, but are working smarter.
Yes.
That are not glorifying that I'm being busy. So I think there's a huge golden change to be made, a shift to be made in how you manage your energy.
Yeah.
And I see a couple of mistakes being made there is that constant hustle mentality or high performer, or maybe it's a wrong belief that we have that if you want to be successful, you have to work hard.
Yeah.
For me, it's about, I always explain it like you should surf the waves.
Okay.
You can go into delivery mode, which is I'm exposing myself, I'm learning new things, I'm giving the best of myself with recovery.
Okay.
And how come that burnout creeps in or that we are exhausted? It's because we don't go through those waves. We go into constant delivery mode and we don't look at our recovery in that proper and same way. If you look at it, I often make the comparison between an elite athlete and what many people refer to as a corporate athlete, right? If you look at the life of a top athlete, I don't know if you have a favorite athlete.
No.
That you think of instantly, tennis player or a basketball player.
No,
not really. All right, let's take one.
I do a lot of sport, and I don't watch a lot of sports. So.
Let's take the average cyclist.
Okay,
right,
good.
Back in the days, Tom Bonen or now Mathieu van der Poel or Remco Evenepoel. If you look at their lives, how much % of their total time do you think they are busy with competing, races, being out there, giving the best of themselves? Tour de France, Ronde van Vlaanderen.
Yeah. I would think 60-70%.
60-70% they are in the race.
No, not in the like they're training.
They're training, but that's a different kind of thing.
Yeah,
it's
the races itself,
competing.
Maybe 10%.
Maybe 10%, indeed, and the rest is ice baths, PlayStation, training, eating, and they are doing that for how long does the career last?
Maybe 10 years.
10 15 years, depend on the type of sports that you pick.
Yeah.
Now, that is the ratio of any high-performing athlete in the sports world.
Indeed.
And then when you compare it to the life of any
corporate athlete,
top performer, look at your life.
Yeah,
right?
Indeed.
How much % of the time are we giving the best of ourselves?
Yeah.
Day in, day out.
Yeah, and the question I ask myself instantly is, what does it mean for me to be in race mode? It's like, when am I in race mode and when am I in training mode?
Yeah.
Because there, it's already interesting to understand how would I make that distinction for myself, for my own work?
Yeah, exactly.
That's a good...
Too many of us are constantly in this sprint mode.
Yeah.
But our careers is not 15 years, but is, sorry to break the deal here, but it's 40 years, 45 years.
Yeah.
And so it's about, our career is a marathon. It's not a sprint. And anybody who's doing running will recognize this. You have to find the right pace.
Yes.
In Formula One, the car, fastest sports on earth, you have to go into the pit lane to come to a complete stop, check the tires, teamwork happens there, take a breath, and then you move on.
Yeah.
Even in the fastest sports on earth, the car goes into the pit lane.
Indeed.
Even though the goal is to reach the finish line as soon as you can, to be the best.
Yeah.
So it's about finding your pit stop strategy and alternating delivery time with enough proper recovery time.
Yeah, and it reminds me of a book, The 100-Year Life. Have you read it?
Yeah, I have read a couple of things of it.
Yeah, so where in the 100-Year Life it says if we become 100, we won't have one career, we'll have several careers. And the line on the phases in our lives will be intertwined, so it won't be just being a kid, studying, working, retiring, but there will be in the work life then also again maybe a little bit of studying, maybe a little bit of just taking care of, then maybe do a side career that all of a sudden becomes the main career. And I really love that principle that you just know, I don't have to find the one thing to then go all out, but I can actually change paths. And because of that principle, I regularly take career breaks in my life.
It's freeing, right?
It's freeing, and it's something that just felt very natural. I did it between my bachelor's and my master's, for example. I just took a year off, a gap year. I did it after my first job. I did a couple of months. So every couple of years, I take a couple of months off. And it's indeed what you say. It's like the pit stop. It really helps me to realign. Okay, but what's next? Like, what's going to be the next acceleration? Because once then I know what the acceleration is, it just goes all out. Yeah. And it makes me realize, maybe I'm in another, I'm in the need of another pit stop moment. Because just before that pit stop moment, it's like a bit slowing down. To then know, okay, I need to have acceleration moment, but before that I need to have that recovery.
Yeah, so you reflect about things in life, and you can reflect it. I often in the business world, I also try to make the distinction between a meeting. We all have way too many meetings, right? Everybody's sick and tired of them. They all way too long, and it could have been an email. But I strongly encourage leaders also to do pit stops with their teams. And you now talked about a pit stop personally.
Yes.
I often take 2 months in summer, just me and my bike, doing nothing. I need that. But also in the business world, I think winning teams, sustainable winning teams, are also managing the power of pit stops in the right way. So a pit stop as a leader, it could be only 15 minutes. It could be an entire day. About checking in with the team. How are we? How is the feedback? How's the trust? How's the motivation? How is the energy?
Yeah.
And please, let's for once and for all remove the word offsite. Right? We don't do offsite. You do a pit stop where you slow down with the team, and the vibe is just entirely different.
Yeah.
So also, I encourage all individual contributors to say, "Hey, boss. Hey, leader. Hey, manager. I need a pit stop," or we as a team, we need a pit stop. And it takes a different kind of skill set, of course, from a leader. Yeah. But it's interesting to do that.
So how do you deal with? Because I can imagine that. I wonder actually if people, because we become more efficient in our work, we also take on more work to contain this I need to be busy, and if I'm not busy, something's wrong belief. But how do you deal with then that workload that is luring and that probably gets higher once you become more efficient? Like, are there any tips that you give to the teams to make sure that the pit stop doesn't give them even more work afterwards?
Many people stress out on their first pit stops.
That's good.
It's a thing. And regardless of the weight of the responsibility that you have, I often have people that come to their first pit stop like this. With their iPad, with their laptop with them, they're doing mails until the last second. First thing I say is remove the laptops. We're not gonna need them right now. Pull them away and see the value of what reflection will bring for you, because that reflection will get us away from working even harder to making strategic decisions about the team. Hey, are our meetings as efficient? Should we remove half of the people out of our meetings? Do we need to reshuffle the workload? It opens up the space for people to voice all the things that are going on and to see where are we leaking unnecessarily once again. If you never do that, you cannot become more efficient in the team, in your energy management. So you need the time to slow down. I mean, it all comes down to that metaphor. And afterwards, after one day, after half a day, then you can make the same decision to go back to your hustle and bustle. But it will never be the same thing, because you have found the value of, hey, because we were evaluating our team drainers and what gives us energy as a team. And because we took a little bit of action on what is draining us as a team, do we have too many meetings? Is there not enough unclarity? Is the feedback not right? It will allow us to grow in a happier way, basically, as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so once you're able to do a pit stop, let's say personally, what else? What's the next step to work then on that energy management and to get that energy flowing?
Yeah. So the leader, their responsibility is indeed to do not a meeting, but a pit stop where you evaluate and you open up the platform into what is draining me, what is boosting me. I think for a leader also, there's nothing more that you can do. Many leaders come and ask me, should I become a workplace therapist? No, please. There are other people who are more confident, who are more experienced. Not a good idea. But then it comes indeed down to the level of individual accountability that we all have. And there you have many people that take away things and that put the intention into action, and many people who don't do anything with it. But then when you see them 1 year later from now, they're still tired. right? They're still complaining about the same things. They still lie awake at night full of anxiety and worries. So there are many, many things that we can do ourselves. But I often focus when I talk for big groups on the basis, the foundation of energy. And that's the awareness of seeing and realizing that if we work hard, and I see many consultancy firms doing that. I see it in FMCG business. We work hard, we go so incredibly hard. And there's a very strange mechanism that we all do, and you'll probably recognize it as well, because I sometimes do it too. When you expose yourself, when you are constantly in that hustle delivery mode, instantly, very strangely, you start to cut out on the most important 3 energy resources for you. You say, 1, I just need to crunch these numbers. I won't sleep. I can neglect that. I'll work until 12, 1 at night because I just have to finish this. And it becomes a week, and a week becomes a month. And before you know it, it's a habit. Yeah. So you start neglecting your sleep. Second is nutrition. I know I need to eat healthy, but my body is craving sugars right now. So I just will order a pizza, burger, takeaway, snacks, which is not sustainable for your brain. It's not healthy. You actually inhibit your mental capacity by doing that. Yeah. So it's another big mistake that we make. And the third one is, I wouldn't say even worse because it's as important, but is your physical movement, physical activity. Yes. That workout, I will skip it. Yeah. Oh, it's still bright outside. I might go for a walk, but no, I just first need to finish this email, right? And it's a very strange move. And every athlete, top athlete in the sports world knows that the tougher the competition, the more you need to recover. Yeah. It's rule number 1 in the sports world is recovery is as important as performance. Yes. But not yet in the business world. No. In the business world, we do the opposite thing. And I often say the deeper you go in red, the more you should look not at your quantity of recovery, because I know it's a tough world. We only have weekends and evenings to recover, but you should look at the quality of your recovery. Yeah. And how do we spend that? Do we spend that in a way that is a gray zone, meaning I'm watching Netflix and at the same time answering and checking my socials and answering WhatsApp and
sitting
looking
in the couch
at my kids playing around and doing the dishes, and that's not proper quality recovery. Yeah. Am I truly disconnected then? Yeah. So that's a little bit of the rules that I try to bring in explaining and to have that aha moment of, I'm running a marathon here. Yeah. How can I manage my energy a bit more properly? And where am I leaking? Because it's a funny metaphor, but it's for everybody's different. Yeah, One person is more anxious than another. Another is way more addicted to their phones than, so it's often a personal reflection that you have to go through.
Okay, good.
Makes sense?
So yeah, it makes a lot of sense. So I hear indeed that physical recovery, it's really all about taking the time to doing the pit stops as a team, as a person. Yeah, and correct. In that pit stop to reflect on, okay, what's my recovery? What does it look like? And what's the quality of it? Yeah. And if the quality, to understand that quality, that you really need to look at how's my sleep? How do I manage my sleep? How's my movement? How's my nutrition? Yeah. And that if you really look at these pillars, that you can make some tweaks. Exactly. To optimize then that physical recovery in a sustainable way. Yeah, exactly. Right.
And there are many tweaks to be made, right? And we all know them. We all watch them on socials, how to optimize your sleep. We all watch Matthew Walker everybody will have them on their algorithm. But the question is, what's the gap between knowing, I didn't sleep well, I look at my phone, knowing the impacts of that on the levels of the brain activity. If you still look at your phone late at night or you're still answering emails, worse even, how come you can't sleep? And do you link one to the other? And then what action can I take? And am I willing to take?
Well, what comes to mind as well when I hear about this physical recovery part is that there's also a lot of, because the physical recovery part and the nutrition and the sleep and the movement, it's kind of becoming a new status of like, I'm taking care of myself, I'm taking my ice baths, etc., etc. So I do also have a lot of high performers that I coach that are really good at following the rules of physical recovery, but that are still drained. And I'm guessing, or I'm knowing, but it's a little bridge towards that. It's their mental recovery that something is to be done there. So can you tell us a little bit about that bucket?
Yeah, and it's also a pitfall of high performers that you go so hard in work And then you become like a maniac
In
when
recovery.
it comes to recovery as
Physical
well.
recovery.
So it can become like a checkbox. If in the evening you didn't do your workout of one hour and you didn't have time for that, you become anxious because, gosh, I didn't do it.
Yeah.
But even 5 minutes then is enough, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It cannot go to the one extreme as well.
Yeah.
It's about knowing the rules and knowing I need to disconnect. I need to get out there. I need to eat healthy. But 80-20 rule, right?
Indeed.
Always
And
like
so,
that.
I noticed it with high performers because it's now the new thing that they often overdo themselves there.
Yeah, definitely. And that can lead to burnout as well because you get exhausted on the 2 levels then.
Yeah.
And the bar is there on all levels, and they don't want to be a bad parent, and they want to be the best friend, and they want to be the best business partner, and they want to be all the best. But there's no way where you can, be the best in everything, right?
Well, what I think is the disconnect there, it's not necessarily about wanting to be the best, but it's, that's my hypothesis, it's about wanting to be the best and looking at external elements to define what the best is.
Yeah.
And so for me, people that are really drained, it's people that don't live from their integrity and what they want, but it's people that live from what they think they should do in order to be this or to achieve that. So it's why are you meditating? Why are you exercising? Why are you eating salad? Why are you fasting in the morning? Why are you drinking bullet coffees? Is it because you want it, because your body tells you this is what I need? Or is it because you think you have to do it to become a certain version that you believe is more successful and more admired than another version? So it's really, what's the drive of the things that you're doing? Is it internal or is it external?
What I should. Yeah.
So it's stop shooting all over yourself.
Yeah. Exactly. And many young people have issues with that.
Yeah.
Because the world is full of people that tell them what to do.
Yeah.
So it makes it super hard. I mean, I think you're a millennial as well, but we cannot imagine Gen Z, Gen Alpha. Many people often say, or many older leaders, like, they don't have strong shoulders anymore. They're weak. They disengage so fast. But it's, how come? I mean, we live in a world where all options are out there, all career options, many people with expectations, and in everything that is possible, it must be so tough to really know who am I when I'm surrounded with thousands of people on socials. What do I stand for? What do I want versus what do I should? So it's completely normal that you kind of fit into a suit that somebody puts there for you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so interesting.
Interesting. So the mental recovery.
Yeah.
Tell us about it.
The mental recovery is I think one part is the fact that we cannot disconnect. Mental disconnection. We can't focus. It's productivity on the working floor, but it's more, if you look at recovery and quality recovery, it's the fact that mentally we're constantly on. I think that is a huge strainer out there. If I ask people, on a scale of 0 to 10, how good are you at disconnecting in the week versus in the weekend? 0 is I cannot disconnect at all, meaning I think about work in a way that it's causing me stress. Scores are like on average 3 out of 10.
Oh, wow.
And then in the weekend, some do a little bit of a better job, but unfortunately it's still like 5, 6-ish. Yeah. So of course we are under a lot of pressure constantly because we have a hard time disconnecting there. So I think, I often encourage people to, if I ask them, do you still have your laptop open when it's in the house, when you're making dinner? They're crazy, the amount of people that say,
really?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, wow.
I do. And then, of course, you pass by your laptop and you see, did that person answer the email? Because we want to feel validated, right? And because we're addicted to the dopamine levels. And I ask, do you have a certain transition ritual that makes you disconnect, like in a Pavlovian way? This is work, and now this is not work. Yeah, this is delivery and this is recovery. And then people look at me with eyes like, oh, what the heck do you mean? And it's basic. Some people, me, when I'm at home, I go walk my dog. Okay. After I change clothes, I go to my jogging outfit, right? When I'm abroad, which is oftentimes the case, I do a breathing technique. Okay. But you should have something in place where your mind knows, now it's time to shut down. You can change the lights, change music, put on the same song, pick up your kids from school and sing the same song together. But it's something systematic built into our system that really is disconnecting us. And then the phone, right? I mean,
did you see a change in the difficulty to disconnect pre and post COVID?
I think, yeah, because of the home working, you see that many people are now working from the living room, from the kitchen, people living in apartment buildings, and that is a little bit tougher.
Is because the home starts to be associated with work as well.
Exactly. So I often encourage people to, even if you work in your home environment, try to have a dedicated place, which is only work. If you don't, put your laptop away so you can't see it anymore.
Yeah.
It does a crazy thing with the psychology of the mind if your laptop is not there anymore, and change really something when it's time. But you see also with the phone, I mean, work is constantly within arm's reach.
Yeah.
So it's harder. Definitely it's harder. So we should be even more dedicated into not today.
It's funny, but the transition ritual, what came to mind is when my parents went to work back in the days, they were always suited up. So they were wearing these suits and really fancy working clothes. So indeed, the first thing that they did when they came home is they changed clothing.
Yeah.
Though I think today, because we there's so much blur between work, private, also in our clothing, like what we wear, it's kind of the same what we wear at work than what we wear with friends. So even there, indeed, it's interesting because there the transition rituals, they were there naturally.
Yeah.
So today we have to find ways to reintegrate them in a way that fits.
Yeah,
or
and also look at it in not such a binary way, because it's not an ideal world where you can stop working, have an evening, and then start over again. In the minority of high performers, that is the case. I have people that go to the home a little bit earlier. They spend 2 hours with the kids, homework, and then they put them to bed, and they go again into work mode or delivery mode, because work life, it's all a big blur. So it's about finding again the right rituals that work for you. But that if you can recover, whenever it is, whether it's shattered recovery time or proper binary recovery time, it doesn't matter. But as long as you do it consciously.
Yeah, and it needs to be like clear
cuts. Clear cuts.
Indeed.
Either I'm delivering or I'm not delivering, I'm doing something else.
Yeah.
Right? But I also mean it when you're cooking. Cook. When you're scrolling through TikTok, own it. I can't curse here, but you just own it. Do it. Yeah. But designate like 30 minutes for that, so you can enjoy it and you don't feel guilty about it. When you go and work out. When you go for a walk, don't take your AirPods with you. Listen to music constantly. Go on the talk with your friends. Do something consciously.
Yeah. When you go to the toilet, go to the
toilet. Exactly.
Leave the phone away.
Enjoy.
Put the phone away.
Voila.
Enjoy
whatever it is that you're doing. When you sing to a song. You drive the car.
Yeah, no, indeed. That's with clients when they say, like, I never have time for myself. I'm always surrounded with either work or children. I just say, yeah, you go to the toilet, right? And most of parents can go to the toilet alone, depending on how old their kids are. Because when they're really small, typically the toilet moments are not alone. But put your phone away. Just sit at the toilet. Just breathe. Just be at the toilet.
Correct.
You know? It's time.
Yeah.
And it's time definitely. Where you can just be and have your mini pit stop in the day.
Like literally, exactly.
Stop, you know?
Exactly. Own up to that. I'm all pro. I'm all with you, Eva. Definitely.
All right, good. Anything else you want to say about the mental recovery part?
Well, the mental, it's one of the things is the disconnection that we have. But I think the other thing is that the mental worries that we have. Yeah. Which is huge.
Yeah, that's the anxiety part.
The anxiety indeed. Yeah. So many of us are thinking in terms of limiting beliefs. We're constantly worrying. We wake up in the middle of the night to go to the toilet. We come back, bam, hard disk here, it's on. It's hard to fall back asleep. And so, it's a tough thing, but I think I know that if you look at, once again, the elite sports world, if you look at the biggest athletes, the GOATs of all time, they often had to go through a tough childhood. They often were faced with a lot of adversity, a lot of challenges and setbacks in life, which made them, and that is the antidote, resilient. Yeah. And so the resilience, the skill, because that is the good news. It's a skill. It's something that we can all learn. Yeah. But we need adversity for that. So it's the reshift in, it is purely a mental coaching thing. It's the shift from, shit happens to me. Now I am cursing. I don't know if that's allowed in your rules of the podcast. If adversity hits me, how can I use that as a platform to learn lessons and to make me bounce even higher and to make me even more strong? And so there, I think a huge amount of work is to be done. The companies, they call it in a fancy word, the growth mindset. I love it, but basically it's one, for me, it's two things, many things about resilience, but it's one, focus on what you can control in life.
Yeah.
Don't worry about what is the government going to decide? What is the top layer above me of the company is going to decide? That colleague, she's nagging all the time. All the things these are energy losses constantly. Focus on what you can control. List all your stresses. It's a very simple exercise that I often give. List them. And it's going to be very depressing first half of the exercise, but just list them and then cross all of them through that are not within your level of control. Yeah. For all the ones that you can control, define one action that you can take to get rid of it or to do something with it. So that's the first one, is to be a little bit more resilient, focus on what you can control.
Yeah, and even the things you at first sight cannot control, you can control the way that you respond to it. So you can control it in a way, because if you respond to it in a different way, you will notice that the situation will change as well. Yeah. Or your perspective of the situation will change.
And that's the coach within you that is now doing the talking. And there's always something that we cannot. I don't know what the board is going to decide. I don't know what the founders are going to decide. Okay, you might not know, but you might be able to influence it a little bit. Or I have way too much workload. Okay, what can you do? Can you make it visible? Can you send an email? Can you talk to this person about it? There's always one action, and you see that when you focus on what you can control, instantly energy flows within your body. And I love it.
But what I want to add to that is, indeed, once if you focus on what you can control, energy flows. And what I've also noticed in my coaching practice is that your body wants you to acknowledge what is. And so if you write down everything that stresses you, and for example, the board is not making any decisions, it makes you very uncomfortable, uncertain, because you don't really know what is going to happen. If you acknowledge yourself, the fact that there's no decisions top down makes me uncertain, and you even say it out loud, you just notice that your body will relax slightly, because it has been acknowledged. And when it has been acknowledged, you just know, I'm uncertain. That's okay. It's not the end of the world. I'm allowed to be uncertain. And I'm just going to learn to swim in this uncertainty. And voila.
Yeah, exactly.
I trust that I can overcome it. Whatever the situation will be, I will then, in my internal locus of control, make the steps that I have to make. And it can be in this company, it can be in a different company. I can start my own company. I can stop working altogether, maybe. But I mean, the sky is the limit.
Spot on. Yeah. And there again, you have the responsibility of the leader to make people, say that. Yeah. I've learned in my psychotherapy lessons, very interesting thing about what you're saying right now, that apparently just by doing the talking, you put all the things that are in the amygdala, the emotions, the stress that you cannot put into words. By putting them into words, you let them being processed by the prefrontal cortex. Okay. And only by doing that, you get them out of your emotional center, basically, very simply explained, and the stress calms down immediately. Yeah. So that is why people often say, what do you do with a therapist? Oh, you talk, or some people say that. But it's by only the talking itself that stress calms down. Yeah, indeed. So spot on. Nice. And backed up by science.
Good.
Yeah, it's a great thing. Voilà. So when it comes to mental strength, the focusing on what you can control is important at all. You can learn that from when you're being a kid. Parents can teach their children that. But it's also about spotting, I think, and that's what you work around on a lot, I think, is spotting the limiting beliefs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's my bread and butter.
Oh, wow. I mean, coaching a couple of CEOs at the moment, and one of them recently told me, but I can't do that, because if I will do that, then this person will not be happy, and that person will not be content. Or I actually want to do a little bit of a career shift, but how? I don't know the right people. And instantly that's the work of a coach, but I think everybody should be a little bit of their own coach as well, into this is a limiting belief, and how can I transform that into something which is helping me rather than pulling me down.
Indeed.
So that's
important.
resilience.
And some of them you can do on your own, and some of them you just need someone else to guide you, because they're really your blind spots, and you're a bit like the book This is Water.
Yeah.
I don't remember who wrote it right now, but where you just have two fish that are swimming, and one of the fishes asks the other one, "Hey, how's the water?" And the other fish like, what are you talking about? Because indeed, the most ingrained limiting beliefs, they are like water for fish. You don't know that you're swimming in it, and you need someone else to point it out to you and also guide you towards then something new, because it's not it's not easy to change your water, but it's possible. It's very possible.
Exactly. You need people around you who, once again, give you feedback. Feedback is so necessary.
Indeed.
I mean, if you don't have feedback, you can't grow. Ask for it.
Yeah.
Actively seek it out.
Good.
Yeah, interesting discussion.
So we have physical recovery, mental recovery. Then you also mentioned emotional recovery.
Yeah. The emotional recovery is what is touching me the most, and what is because physically everybody can do a little bit of, influencing the metrics. You can stop looking at your phone, you'll sleep better. You can start working out, get a little bit more daylight, you'll sleep better. You can eat more healthy, blah, 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 all these things. It's very easy. But with the emotional well-being, I think there's a collective responsibility that is important. We all feel, in a world where we have thousands on connections of social media, we all feel more lonely. And it's tough. And when you asked me in the beginning, how do you measure that? I basically ask, if you look at mental, emotional, physical energy, how would you score yourself? Simple, from 0 to 5, from 0 to 10, whatever. Every leader can do these kind of pit stops for themselves. And these scores are always the ones that are suffering the most.
The
emotional scores.
Okay.
And in COVID, that got a hit. More than the physical one. Because physical one, many people in COVID also made the decision, I'm now going to spend a little bit more time that I have on working out, becoming fitter. But the emotional score is a lot lower. And I think many of that has to do with people just not checking in on each other enough, genuinely. I will never forget the first time, 5 years ago, I started working in the US a lot of times. First time I went there, the guy from the customs, he asked me, my English was also very bad at the time. And I arrived and he asked me, how are you? Hi, ma'am, how are you? And I said, yeah, good. I'm a bit tired, actually. I'm a bit jet lagged, I think. That is what it's called. And he looked at me while I was doing my explanation like, girl, I'm not even interested in how you are really. So I immediately, and then the taxi driver, how are you? And again, I started explaining, but I had also the guts to ask him, are you actually, what is the courtesy here? What is the thing in the US?
Yeah.
And you just ask a question back. How are you? That is the answer. How are you? Good. How are you?
Yeah.
And it's that level of superficiality that I get goosebumps from, but not in a good way, right? And so I think in the corporate world, it's that kind of, how are you? Good, even when we're not good, that is causing a lot of emotional damage.
Yes.
And so I think small things that we can do is just adding one word to that question. You ask, how are you? And then people say, I'm good. How are you? But just ask them, how are you really doing? That one word can already get these scores up with 1 or 2 points, I'm certain of. But dare to ask a little bit deeper. Dare to take those 5 minutes with whoever you're talking to. How are you really? And then people are honest. And only by venting, by checking in with themselves, by understanding each other, by empathizing with each other, that is when instantly we feel more connected. So it's the loneliness is huge.
All right. Yeah, and there's a lot of limiting beliefs around discussing how you really are in the workplace as well, because often people I coach, they say, but I don't want to be a victim. I don't want people to pity me. I don't want people to think everything is going really bad because just this one thing happened to me.
Yeah.
So there's also some re-education necessary on a collective level, that it's not because someone went through something difficult or just says, actually not great today, that all of a sudden you have to be careful around that person, or because I often notice that people don't really know how to deal with then the actually not good answer, because they're like, okay, why did I ask this question? What do I respond? How do I act? Do I have to smile to that person more to make them feel good? Okay, now I'll check in with them 5 times. And then the other person thinks, no, this is not what I wanted. I just wanted to tell you, not great. This happened. And now I'm good. I can go on with it.
There's a great tip that I can give to all of the people that feel awkward, uncomfortable, or they think I have to solve the problem. I'm not equipped for that. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a coach, whatever it is. You just ask that one question. Do you want to be helped? It's the 3 H's. You want to be helped? You want to be heard? Or, and then I often use that in my own private relationship or with your friends, you can use that, is you want to be hugged. In the corporate world, some colleagues do that, some don't. But helped or heard, I think, is a crucial distinguishment, is a crucial question that you can ask. And many people, you will notice that they say, I just want to be heard. Mm-hmm. Point. And then the expectations, you can listen without needing to think, oh gosh, I don't have the right solutions. What should I say? Yeah. That's it. You want to be helped, you want to be heard, or you want to be hugged. I think it's Esther Perel that or Jay Shetty, I don't know, one of our 2 idols that said that.
I will look that up. Wow, I really love that. Yeah. Indeed. Also in relationships.
Also in relationships.
It will save many relationships.
Yeah, basically, because with my husband, that is the case. He said, please stop thinking in solutions. Don't be the coach, right? I always go into solution mode. And how can we solve that? I just want to be heard or hugged. Can be the case.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah. So let's ask that question. Let's ask each other more. How are you really?
Yeah.
And if you get an answer that you didn't expect, do you want to be helped, heard, or hugged?
Yeah, exactly. And if they say, I want to be helped, then you also can say, hey, I actually don't know how to help you. What do you think? What is the thing that you need right now from me? Mm-hmm. And they will say, oh, you might take this up with that person, or you might, do whatever it is. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So it's, that I think will increase the emotional capabilities of people a lot more as well.
Well, you're by asking this question, you're not in it alone. You're in it together. Yeah. So the person told you this, and you're in it together. So you can also figure out together what's necessary to get out of it together. So it's indeed together is such a core concept that sometimes is a bit burdened or hidden in all the I have to be unique, I have to be special,
It's a huge.
It's really that the ability to learn how to work from a we point of view rather than from an I point of view.
Exactly. And then for all the people listening in that think, the whole wholeness thing, the team thing, it's such big BS because come on, we just got to perform. When talking about these things, the level of psychological safety goes up in the team. Mm-hmm. Research is super clear that the more psychological safe the team feels to share that with each other, the better the results are, the more effortless the team works together. And so I often get that answer a lot of times on as well when I talk about the power of recognition and the lack of recognition in the workplace, which is another big factor looking at the emotional scores. There are I often do measurements for big teams, and I collect them at the end of every summer, and I look at the results. And last year, the results were just stunning. If you ask younger generations, I count myself as still the younger generation, so millennials and Gen Z, the 2 youngest of the 4, you ask them how much appreciation and recognition do you need from your manager, so not peer-to-peer. Then you see that 35%, they say, I need it twice a day.
Wow, that's a lot.
60% says, I can do it less, once a day is enough. And then 5% says, less than once a day is good. So once a week might be good. And so then you get many managers that say, but Irais, is that not what I'm paying them for, right? Do I really need to thank all of you young kids and to thank you for showing up to work? Thank you for sending out that email. Thank you so much. And I think the point, therefore, exactly is it's not about saying thank you so much that it becomes hollow, that it doesn't hit the heart anymore. Mm-hmm. In the workplace, there are many ways that we can give better recognition. And it shouldn't always be the broad things. Basically, you have 4 categories, 4 marks of recognition. If anybody wants to give a little bit of better, thank yous, you can thank people for 4 different ways. And it's important that we start specifying that. You can thank somebody for the expert that he or she is. Wow, you were really an expert in that meeting. You brought a case study in that really helped us solve this project. Wow, congrats for that. Thank you for bringing that in. You can thank somebody for an entire different thing, for the human being that somebody is. But please, people that are listening, don't say, thank you for the human being that you are, because you got to thank them specifically for something. Somebody opened up in that meeting and where the entire team felt a little bit awkward. You, Eva, you recognized you reacted with so much empathy. And I mean, that really made a change. So thank you for that. But you can thank somebody for their passion, for their engagement, for their perseverance, for something about their personality, right? So that's the second thing, is a human being. Third thing is you can thank them for the time and energy. Some people think that's very important to be recognized for. I saw that you worked very hard on that project. You worked weekends. Let's not make that a habit, but I spotted it. So thanks for that. And then last but not least, can you guess it? Still so important in the corporate world.
Yeah, for the output.
Exactly. For the results.
Yeah, for the results.
For the results. And the funny thing about these 4 marks of recognition is that my grandmother, she always taught me, Iris, treat other people like you want to be treated yourself. This is the only exception, as you're guessing, because we all have a different podium of recognition.
Yeah.
What I want to receive, if you could pick out your golden one, what is the type of recognition on the working floor that I couldn't live without? That will be different for everybody. And so the exercise that I often make is, people that are working in a company for a very long time, how well do we actually know them? People that are working within your close-knit team, how well do we actually know them? Because it's not because somebody is a super nice person that they want to be recognized for that. They might internally be super results-driven, and it can change over time. So try to get to know your colleagues that you work with in a way that you know what their podium is of recognition, and thank them in a way that it just hits the heart. Specified. And I think that metric and the how are you really doing, emotional connection instantly booms, right?
Yeah, indeed. Oh, wow, interesting. Okay, so in these 4 ways of recognition, you can really, that's a very concrete thing you can do. Ask in the team, ask your manager, ask the people you're managing yourself. What's your way that you want to be recognized, and make it.
Yeah. What's your podium? I mean, there will always be a 4th one, which is irrelevant. But, is play a little bit around with that podium.
Yeah.
You should
it's a
always
bit with the love languages. It reminds me of the love language. Like, what's your love language?
Exactly.
In a relationship, you want to be hugged? Do you want to get compliments? Do you want to get gifts?
Yeah.
Do you want to do things together? Do you want me to put the trash out for you?
That's
what's the love language?
Great analogy. It's a little bit the love language of the corporate world.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Awesome. Awesome. Good link.
So we talked about the physical recovery, the mental recovery, the emotional recovery. And if these are not tended to properly, you risk going into burnout.
Yeah. I think, there are more elements that lead to burnout, but indeed, those 3, if you neglect those, or if those batteries are on the lower end, you risk getting into burnout. Okay.
And so you said at the start of the episode, we said we're going to talk about some misconceptions of burnout.
Yeah.
What are they?
Oh, Eva, you're opening a bottle or a box right now, which is I could talk endlessly about, but there are a lot of misconceptions. I think one of the biggest misconceptions out there is that burnout happens to the people who are weak. Who don't have strong shoulders, who are dedicated enough, because it happens to people who are under 30, and come on, they haven't been through their careers, and you should just persevere and hold on. I can tell you, I'm coaching people, the top talents of top organizations, tech companies, consultancy companies, the big ones out there, young people that I can assure you are the most hardworking people, the most dedicated people, then they are strong. So one big misconception is that I often say, if you're not on fire for your job, you don't risk going into burnout. Okay. So you must be on fire first. which is also the first stage of burnout. It's a thing that goes in different stages, but it starts with being on fire. People who are not on fire, who are disengaged from the start, who are coming to the working floor like, oh, okay, tell me what to do. I mean, they won't ever go into burnout. So it happens to the people who are most dedicated, most on fire, most out there, most willing not to disappoint anyone, because we'll come to that in the story. It's also about people pleasing, right?
Okay.
So, but it happens to the people who are on fire.
Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah. Recognize myself in it.
Probably many people will.
Yeah, indeed. And you say it happens to people that are on fire.
Yeah.
There's several stages that you also talk about a lot, or that I have. Does it start with being on fire? Is that the first phase?
That's the first phase, indeed. And those stages, I mean, I don't have them. I have them from my education as a burnout coach, but there were maybe 4 back in the days. And by coaching many people throughout them, that's my, stages that I made out of it. But there might be people that having a different truth, but the burnouts that I see, the type of burnouts there, not the bore-outs, but the true burnouts, are indeed, I can distinguish 6 different stages.
Okay.
2 green ones, 2 orange ones, and 2 rather dangerous red ones indeed.
Okay.
It starts with being on fire.
Okay.
It's the first stage. Mm-hmm. In the beginning, are you, I don't know, can I ask, are you married?
Yeah, I'm together with a partner.
Okay. You haven't been through your honeymoon. You haven't been on a honeymoon.
We haven't been on a honeymoon.
But you've been in the super lovey-dovey phase. Yeah, you've been in the honeymoon phase. How did you feel then?
Light.
Yeah.
Light, flowy, very flexible. Everything is possible.
Everything
just go with the flow and whatever
cloud
it
in the
is,
sky.
Exactly.
That is very typical about that first stage.
Yeah.
It's the honeymoon stage. It's a superhero phase. You're, because of a new element in your life, can be private, professional, new project, promotion, new house, new kid, anything can spark that first stage. Yeah. You're addicted to the adrenaline, just as in the love honeymoon phase. You are putting in a lot of work. You're working long hours on the working floor, getting the results, but it gives you a level of adrenaline that you're just in that rush of adrenaline. You feel good. And the risky thing here is, what if you were my manager and I just joined and you're like, Irais, man, you have tons of energy. You get out there, you do your thing. What will you give me?
More work.
More work.
A lot of recognition.
At first, a lot of recognition. You'll say, tap on the shoulder. Great
she's
job,
our high
Irais.
Performer.
She's our high talent. She can do anything. And that girl, she's the golden girl, whatever it might be. Yeah. And the dangerous thing is that it becomes very tricky when we start to associate behaviors of sleeping only 4 hours, working 16 hours a day, having such great output with dopamine, with taps on the shoulder, I'm doing good. And once the mind starts associating behaviors with neglecting of your energy, basically, that becomes dangerous, because what we're going to do is indeed, as you already mentioned, stage 2, working harder.
Okay.
And of course, you're going to try so hard to get in even more results, live up to that expectation that you now put in because of working hard. And I'm not saying here that you shouldn't put in the results. You definitely should. But it's the energy part, once again, that comes with that. In that working harder stage, you start, the delivery time starts eating away the recovery time. Yeah. So your partner at home starts feeling that. Or if you don't have a partner, your friends, your parents start feeling that. Like, hey, are you again on your laptop? You get these kind of comments. Yeah. But it's very nuanced. It's very gradual that happens. And, friends, family start suffering. And one of the first signs there that people can look out for is sleep. Yeah. Sleep is the first one that starts suffering. Yeah. Instead of 5 minutes, it now takes you 30 minutes to fall asleep. You wake up more in the middle of the night. You wake up before your alarm clock goes off. Sleep is often the first issue that arises there. Okay. If you work harder to get that initial energy back, to get that superhero status, that feeling back of I can take on the world, but you have a hard time managing your energy still. You're still tired. What is the feeling of that you will have on the inside? I'm trying so hard, but
a bit of exhaustion, but or frustration.
Frustration, exactly. Yeah? You spot on. That's how I baptized the third stage, which is the first orange stage. We all fluctuate through it, but this is where you got to pay attention maybe a bit more. We feel frustrated because we tried so hard to get that energy back, but to no luck.
Yeah.
So sleeping becomes a little bit more severe in terms of issues. But there's one sign that everybody will know is that when you come back from the weekend and I check in with you and ask you, Eva, how are you? And you say, good. How are you? And then I ask, how are you really? Because now we've learned that. Then you will say, oh, my weekend was good, but maybe a bit short.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay. But the weekends feel too short.
Exactly. If you need a day more to recover, or if you come back and you're still exhausted, for me, that's the first sign of frustration phase. And because you have less energy, you become more forgetful, so less productive, and it's like the snowball effect. So you get even more frustrated, which gets you into stage 4. Questions?
Like frustration, it's also a bit of an no questions. There's a word that I'm trying to look for, but I don't feel it. I don't find it. So no. So
okay.
What's the fourth phase?
The next stage is the phase of denial.
Denial. Okay.
Because in the frustration phase, you've not only neglected a little bit of your relationships, but you also start to cut away other things. Your workout, social activities. I'm not going to join that party. I'm not going to do anything in the week anymore because I'm too tired or I need to put in work. But your body is giving you a little bit more signs as well, gradually. And so in the denial stage, I often coach executive members, and when they get back from their holidays, that is interesting because I ask them, where did you go to? And they say, oh, it was great. Oh, me and my entire family, we went to the Maldives, or it's always a very fancy location. So they all, no cloud in the sky, everything is great. But then when you dig a little bit deeper, but how really was it? What did you do in the first days? And then they say, oh, Iris, I almost forgot. I got sick. These first few days?
I just wanted to ask you, like, don't they all get sick?
I got sick. I mean, I don't know what it was. I was laying in bed. I couldn't get out of bed. I was coughing, headaches, crucial things. I was sick. And for me, 2 alarm bells go off straight, is that they cannot say it immediately. Yeah. So it means that they forgot about it already. Mm-hmm. And that they say, I don't know why, but I got sick. So for me, that is the stage of denial.
That's denial.
Because your body is giving you a lot of signs and, disturbed sleep, digestion, migraines, back pains, whatever it is, sick, and you don't acknowledge them. Yeah. So then is when people go to the doctor because they're denying it. And they say, give me something, melatonin. I want to sleep better. I wanted this. Superficial symptom things. And also the first emotional sign comes up, which is a shorter fuse. For some, that might be I become a little bit more short in my communication. Yeah. For others, that might be I start crying more often.
Mm-hmm. I
isolate. Yeah. Emotional first. So physical, sleep, symptoms, and then also emotional in the phase of denial. Yeah. You're not happy anymore. If you then push through, keep denying the signs that your body is giving you, then you come in the stage of apathy. Yeah. And apathy is very interesting because you can recognize those people in meetings. I'm joining your company and I'm a super energized person. And over the years, over the months even, you're going to see me sitting in a meeting like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Laid back.
Whatever. Yeah. I'll do whatever you say to me and I'll just follow the flow. The disengagement. Yeah. And that's not a behavior that was associated with me before. Indeed. But it's something that is truly interesting to see, because then if you have good colleagues, first of all, it's your mind protecting you from being more engaged. So it's a purely mental protection mechanism that happens. But if you then have good colleagues, they will tell you, Eva, you are not like the girl that once joined this company. You're not like the woman. I see something different in you. What is it? And that is the moment when you drive back to your house or you cycle back and you start crying in the car, because the anxiety kicks in, because you don't recognize that that happened so gradually over time.
Indeed, yeah. I remember I had a burnout myself, and I always was a bit in denial about it. Yeah, it's clearly there. Yeah. And I remember that at a certain point in time, I told my manager, I don't want to grow anymore. I'm good at this level. You don't need to take me into account to become a partner or to grow. I'm good. And that he was thinking, what is this?
What happened?
Like he wrote down in his book, no ambition anymore, ? But then someone else who knows all about burnout, he said, this is not good. Yeah. Like this is a sign. This is not her. So indeed, exactly. I was like, nah. let me be here in my comfort zone.
Yeah.
It's hard enough already. So that was how the apathy was also like picked up by someone.
It's but you see it happening so often.
Yeah, so
People,
often indeed.
You just completely check out mentally.
Yeah, indeed. And then, so after the apathy is then burnout, or does it?
Well,
everything is burnout.
It's a gradual
It's
stage.
a gradual stage.
That's the point that I want to make.
Okay.
And then you get into the last stage, which is what people regard as the burnout.
Yeah.
Which is everything is too much. All my batteries are empty.
Yeah.
And there's a sign that we really need to be on the lookout for if you want to build winning teams, winning cultures, is when people, you send them an email with a very specific task, and normally you would have answered 10 minutes, bomb, task is done. Now it feels for them like this humongous weight on their shoulders.
Yeah.
And it's that kind of last drip in the bucket. I don't know if that's a metaphor, but it's that kind of thing that is just the last thing that for them, it feels so huge when they crash completely. And these stories are real. People that cannot wake up in the morning, they faint. Even in the Asian world, they have a word for that, karoshi, meaning fainting on the work, even worse. And you just are completely, utterly exhausted.
Yeah, everything is too much.
Everything
like
is too much.
Every smallest thing, even making breakfast for your kids is too much.
Everything, every small thing is too much. And then you, of course, need a longer time to recover, but not just staying at home.
Yeah.
Right? There's an active recovery to be going on, in which I can talk about that a lot, but it's
we won't,
a gradual stage, right? And that is super important to realize.
All right. So it's if you recognize yourself in one of these orange or red stages, specifically, I mean the green stage. The first stage is a nice one, but it cannot. It's
not sustainable.
It's not sustainable, indeed. All right, good. So we're gonna round up and go to the end of the episode. We talked about so many different components of energy management. What are some final few words that you want to say to people listening in? It can be some advice, it can be a tip, but like, what would you like to give back to the people listening as final few words?
I would definitely say, remember to slow down in life when you go super hard.
Okay.
The tougher the competition, the harder, the faster your life is, the more you need to pay attention on how often do I stop to reflect.
Okay.
So the power of slowing down to move faster, super important. You know, many of us have such a high level of FOMO, fear of missing out.
Yeah.
I often am an advocate for JOMO, the joy of missing out.
Yeah.
Go lay in your bathtub and be happy that you're not on a party, that you're missing out, but that you're paying attention to your proper recovery, meaning we don't have to do everything at once. There's, as you mentioned, a stage for everything in life.
Exactly.
So definitely that would be such a big thing. Don't always run, but take some time to stop and pause. On the burnout thing, there might be an extra thing because the recovery is important to pay attention to. But later in that recovery stage, is you have to learn how to say no in a constructive way. And learning how to say no, you have to know, what do I say no to? And that has to do with knowing yourself. Yeah. So it's an area that we haven't discussed, but that I would strongly encourage many people to do, is dig a little bit deeper into what are your core values. Yeah. If I look back onto my life, what are the biggest happenings, events that happened in my life that made me into who I am? Because a burnout often also happens not only because of a lack of energy management, but also because people overstep your values. Yeah. So boundaries are important to be made. So make sure that you find out what is my why, what is my purpose. Because if you know your why, you can endure anyhow. Yeah. And that's an important driver that is definitely not to be neglected as well.
And if you don't yet know what the drivers are, the values are, I think people sometimes also feel, oh, I don't know what my values are, so I'm not doing a good job. Yeah. Well, what you can also do is, your body also already tells you, like if you're saying yes to something or no to something, just check in with your body, like what does it do? You can literally put two papers on the floor and go on, stand on one and says yes, go on, stand on the other, no. And you will just feel which of the two papers will create tension and weight to you and to your body, and which will create lightness and just this feeling like, okay, this is right. Like your body knows. You don't have to figure it out with your smart, intelligent head. your body knows it way before your head can even figure it out.
Love that exercise.
So if you don't know your values, just check in with your body and it will tell you if it's a real yes or it's a fake yes, and a yes against your own boundaries.
Yeah, exactly. And also know to differentiate the tension as you feel, but know when it's pressure.
Yeah.
Pressure is a huge privilege. It means that you're in the spot to make an impact, to make a change. And know that when it's stress, when it's negative tension. Pressure is exciting. Yeah. If you feel pressure to do public speaking, to apply for a new job, many people associate that with stress. No, it's a good thing. Pressure is good. Yeah. Pressure built over a long time turns into stress, and then it's not good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's I like that as well. Good. All right. So then we're at the end. So there's where I ask you as a person a couple of questions.
Bring it on.
So we talked a lot about that recovery, the ability to slow down, burnout stages. So I wonder, what did you do to sabotage yourself, let's say 10 to 15 years ago, that you have overcome by now? What did you do?
It's a beautiful question. And self-sabotage is a hard word, but the right word, I think, because many people do that, including me.
Yeah.
And as I've said in the beginning of this session, I didn't start off my career being where I am now, and I couldn't be where I was today without other people believing in me.
Okay.
I recently, actually this morning at the breakfast table, I asked my husband, like, do you have the feeling that I sometimes self-sabotaged myself? And he thought about it, but he was very straightforward. He said, yeah, of course. I mean, 10 years ago, you were still living up to expectations of other people. And being a child that has always, I'm my brother, very rebellious. We won't go into too much of the background, but I was always in psychology, that's called parentification. I was the perfect child type.
Yeah.
Which
the
always,
good daughter.
Yeah, you went to uni as one of the first in the family, a good career. So she will always do a good job. And at a certain moment, I found myself in life when I was doing the sports marketing, like, something just didn't click. And I felt, because I was in marketing, like I always had other interests, and I didn't believe myself that I could go and pursue a career in that. I was the 12-year-old that was reading Quest magazines, science and psychology. I was that girl that was always intrigued by coaching people, not knowing that. I was the ones that was writing, graduation forms for people in my boarding school that were crying. For every week that my best friend, she cried because she missed home, I wrote her like a certification. By the end of the year, her wall was just filled with that.
Wow.
And only by digging deep, and she's still my best friend right now, by digging deep into what am I actually always interested about, and embracing that and daring to say, maybe I should shift careers.
Yeah. And follow my own path.
Follow my own path.
Maybe what the impact will be on others, but also not care about it too much.
Not care about it, because many people then they declared me a fool. Like, you're leaving behind your job with the corporate, all of the perks. You have a team, you have fantastic colleagues, you have a good income. My grandparents, they were like, what the hell are you doing? And now you're going to shift your career 6 months, you don't do a free internship.
Yeah.
But it's because of the people that I've been lucky enough to have enough people, good mentors, good friendships, a good partner that encourage me to do that. And that is how I started to believing it myself.
Okay. So really that support network that kept saying it, kept encouraging you, that you that you did feel safety in changing and that uncertainty, because you just knew, okay,
believe them.
People believe in me.
Even if you don't believe yourself, just believe them when they say you should be self-employed, you should be doing this. This is what I feel. I feel this kind of type of energy. It doesn't match with what you're doing. Yeah. Believe them and just be curious enough to see what that does with you, and to let that then flow into you don't know what.
Yeah.
All
right. Good. And so is it now more clear to you what is a yes and what is a no?
Yeah.
From yourself?
Yeah,
without people
clear.
telling you? Okay.
Super clear. Yeah. I know perfectly what my values are. ABC, authenticity, bravery, connection. Okay. By doing the work, by going to therapy myself, by having coaches. Yeah. It's deep work, but it's the work that everybody should do, because the richness, also when people go through burnout, I say it's going to be the biggest gift of your life once. Indeed. And so is life. You have to be willing to dig deep, to slow down, to reflect and see, who am I?
And then accelerate from that.
Very fundamental here, but
good.
It's good to end with that note.
And if I would ask you this question in 15, 20 years from now, what would you then would like to say about what you're doing today still as self-sabotage that you by then will have overcome?
I think that's hard. It's a tough question to answer because I think now in life I'm very well aware of who I am, what I'm doing. Some people tell me I'm not dreaming big enough. So maybe that is something that you could call self-sabotage. Like, can you be, can you become the best coach in the world? Can you, go to the biggest stages in the world? And I often think that checking in with myself, do I have that need? Do I have that want?
Yeah. It's not because you can do it that you
should do it.
That it's so a want.
It's a trap that I already fell in. It's the pitfall that I already had earlier in life, doing what other people say. Yeah. So I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to answer that question.
Okay, that's good.
Maybe I need another mirror. Maybe you will tell me where am I self-sabotaging? But I often get people asking me that, like, what's next? You're now already took this leap. You're coaching the boards of big companies. What's next? But I'm happy with where I am, and I'm learning how to embrace, how to find the balance in my own life, traveling a lot, not being at home a lot. And that is the challenge that I'm embracing right now, and that I'm getting better and better and better. And that's good for me.
All right. That's good.
I'm happy.
That's good. I feel it too.
Or fulfilled. That's the better word. Happy is a temporary state, but I'm fulfilled on the inside. Yeah, definitely.
Right. Good. Well, thank you so much for today.
Thank you.
And if you recognize yourself in any of these signs, physical, mental, emotional, any of the burnout stages, and you take these knowledge with you and learn from these tips that you heard, share it also with someone that you care about and that will benefit from listening to this episode, because together we wake up people around us and we dare them to be great. See you next time. Bye.
Bye.